I just finished public school, I'll tell you why it's great. Waking up at 6 a.m. to pledge allegiance to the state. Yeah, it's true, I got my public school blues.
The total sum of human knowledge is doubling every year, probably. It used to be like every 7 years, but now it's got to be much more than that. How do we deal with all this new information and all this new knowledge? We have to reduce it down to those essentials. We have to check those premises and make sure that we're starting off on the right foot, that the ideas that are being purported, these higher level concepts, if you will, the abstractions from abstractions, we have to make sure that these are connected to the facts of reality. And when someone says, well, we can't know the facts of reality, well, then they're trying to arbitrarily basically cut us off at the knees. There's a useful quote here where he's talking about the fallacy of stolen concept, and this is what we've said a few times already, that you can't know anything for certain. Well, are you certain of that? Because you have to use the concept certainty to assert a proposition that we can't know anything for certain. Just as we can't, there are no absolutes. Well, is that an absolute statement? Do you know that absolutely? So again, this is kind of wanting us to slip into that subjectivist view of epistemology rather than trying to be objective about things and connecting concepts to reality. So Peikoff wrote here, errors of this kind are widespread. The fallacy involved was identified for the first time by Ayn Rand. She called it the fallacy of stolen concept. This fallacy consists in using a higher level concept while denying or ignoring its hierarchical roots, i.e. one or more of the earlier concepts on which it logically depends. This is the intellectual equivalent of standing on the 40th floor of a skyscraper while dynamiting the first 39 stories.
Right.
The higher level concept, such as friendship, he was talking about the concept of friendship, in the above examples, is termed stolen because the individual involved has no logical right to use it. He is an epistemological parasite. He seizes without understanding, a term created by other men who did observe the necessary hierarchical structure. The parallel to the parasite in matter who seizes wealth created by others is obvious. So you'll notice that in Objectivism proper, they do use a lot of moral judgment and engage in a fallacy of their own, the ad hominem fallacy. Mm-hmm. To call someone that is really stepping outside of the bounds of logic and into the realm of just accusation and criticism, which can really derail your ability to think clearly about these things. And Objectivism actually has fallen prey. Ayn Rand herself advocated a massive contradiction in the realm of political philosophy, saying that if we just call one group of individuals in a given geographical territory the word government, we call them government, and we have this concept that they have a legalized monopoly on coercion, that somehow is going to protect us. That's going to safeguard our rights. But that's, of course, not taking into the context that coercion is a violation of rights. And to perpetuate a monopoly in any economy, I don't care what services you're providing. It could be, private security or military, right? If these are imposed on people against their will, and no one can compete for a better price and a better service, then that is a contradiction. So, unfortunately, there's an example of where her upbringing in Soviet Russia probably influenced her psychology to have this mistrust of letting go of the government meme. The idea that some group of people should rule over others and be the final authority, right? This idea of authority, as Larkin Rose has written a book about that, the most dangerous superstition. Yep. This belief in so-called authority where we abandon our own critical thinking faculty and our own independence and surrender it to someone else who purports to know best what's for us, and to act in our best interests or public interests. There's a lot of the collectivism that's thrown in too. And Rand, had an egregious contradiction that she promoted called national self-interest,
Yeah.
Nations can't have self-interest. Objectivists talk about this. Like, we want to, once we buy into the idea of government, now we're in the realm of collectivism, right? Because we are not recognizing individuals as sovereign, but rather people within a certain country or a nation state. And they like to say that, well, this government would be voluntary. but that is not in accordance with the facts, because by definition, government is a monopoly.
Right.
So there can't be competing jurisdictions. And Rand said that, well, if we had, anarchy, there'd be just, people fighting gang warfare in the streets, and we couldn't get our need for safety met, and individual rights couldn't be assured. So it's, whenever you see something that doesn't make sense and you have a certain feeling about it, it's just important to look at the nature of the concepts that are being forwarded and chase them down to the nature of reality, the nature of human beings, that we're reasoning creatures, and therefore we have needs for autonomy and respect and choice and justice and fairness and so forth. And those ought not get run over roughshod by various ideas that purport to somehow support those needs,
Sure. And ideas that are built, I would say, a lot of the times, these more abstract ideas, from a failure to go back and check the premises, to drill down to make sure that everything that you have at the foundation, is ultimately axiomatic. And from there, you can just start, if that doesn't exist, you can get to these ideas that the objectivists did, but really conceptually, if you say nothing can be true and we don't have to worry about axioms, we don't have to worry about premises, conceptually you can really be building bridges between clouds.
Public school, you keep me in good mental health, 'cause without you, I'd have to think